crime that will last long, meaning you will keep thinking of it. It will go with you, not like the rape. There's nothing like the rape, but I mean, it's in a way instrumentalizing the rape as well is to target the person, but also the whole social environment and the whole society with crimes that will go with you, as the regime say, forever. Marking the bodies of the people through torture, through hunger, through rape, so that the crime will live with those who survived and with their families as long as possible. That is a policy. It's not just violent thugs who go and torture and kill, right? So this was also one of what we learned from the Syrian war. And finally, conspiracy theories. We can talk about that later. Since September 11, anything that happens, you might have conspiracy theory about it. Who's behind it, who's responsible, who benefits from this, etc. And with the age of social media, you do have on Syria lots of conspiracy theories. Who is behind what happened? Was there? Is it a matter of pipeline? Who should have passed by Syria? That's why the Westerners created the war. Assad is a resistant against Israel and the imperialists. So the imperialists created all that. And you have, unfortunately, on the left part of the political maps in many European countries, but also in the region and in Turkey, in many places, those who believe of a plot against Assad because he's resistant, because he's anti-imperialist, and they supported him for that. And that was horrible because as if they contributed to a racist approach when it comes to thinking of Syrians as people manipulated by remote control, by invisibilizing them, by bringing them out of the picture and just talking about few geostrategic concerns that anyone can talk about without knowing anything about the region. Plus, there was also, in some places, this attempt at telling the Syrian what is better for them. Okay. I give you the advice because I'm wise. I will tell you what you should do and should not do. And we have seen it a lot. And this is unfortunately related not only to the Middle East. I think the approach towards some African countries could be the same, in Asia as well. Even in our societies here, the class issue might lead to something similar. But Syria showed us to which extent we can invisibilize people, we can dehumanize them, and just talk about some borders in our cafe, giving the impression that we know much more than they do, because we are progressive, so they should listen to us and forget about their dignities and lives. When I said it's documented, we know who killed whom in Syria. It's not true that no one knows who killed whom, as some people started to say. Regions and neighborhoods who are bombed, we know who bombed them, because everything is filmed, because military operations are documented, because fights are documented, and you can see that 87% of the civilian victims of the conflicts who are documented, because this is also another thing, always figures can be questioned, right? But usually in conflicts that last more than year, 2, 3, 4, we're talking about 10 years, you have many other victims that are not in the statistics because they die for other reasons. When you are displaced, you might die in an accident in an area that you don't know quite well. When all hospitals are saturated, many people with chronic disease or with other problems might not have healthcare and would die. In these kind of contexts, cancers and heart attacks are much higher than in normal contexts. So the figures might be much more important when it comes to the civilian losses, and we're not talking about military losses that might bring the figure up to more than 500,000. So 87% were killed by the Syrian regime, 3% by the Russian forces, making that 90%, close to 2.19% by ISIS, 183 by the opposition, 132 by the American and the US-led coalition, 0.62 by the Kurdish militias, and 0.23 by Al-Qaeda or Al-Nusra, and you have 3.65 for unidentified. This is one indicator about criminality, but not only, it's also about the firepower or about the intensity of the bombing that we saw in Syria. And those figures here, when I said we know the names and the IDs of the people, it's not just estimations. When it comes to those who disappeared, forcibly disappeared, we have 112,000 until today. 85% disappeared in the regime jails, 7.71% in ISIS or Daesh, and the rest in the other jails of the other groups. So the question of impunity, and I conclude with this, there are few developments recently that might be interesting developments. They're not sufficient, but something is maybe changing. In Germany, you have many cases due to the fact that some of the perpetrators or some of the criminals live in Germany and some of their victims live in Germany. There were many cases brought to court and many decisions that were taken by the German justice that are encouraging in the struggle or in the fight against impunity. You also have the Netherlands and Canada that did send, in fact, a clear case to the ICJ, International Court of Justice, when it comes to crimes against humanity committed by the regime. They talked about torture and rape specifically, and that is important, and the ICJ accepted the case, and it will continue working on it, so that is also another sign of hope. Now France did issue arrest warrant to 3 generals of the regime, Ali Mamlouk, Jamil Hassan, and I forgot the name of the third, who are responsible of the death of 2 Syrian French citizens, the father, Mazen Dabbagh, and his son, Patrick. They have the French nationality, they had it, and their brother lives in France, so he brought the cause to court, and there were investigations about the place where they were arrested, where they died, inside Naya. Their families were just sent certificates of the death without the bodies, of course, but there is a clear case leading to those arrest warrants. And more important, 2 weeks ago, an arrest warrant against Bashar al-Assad himself, his son, his brother Maher, and a third person, 2 other persons working for him, who were in charge of the chemical program. Why? Because this is a crime against humanity with the chemical program, and there were enough documentation by Syrians who are in France now, and by relatives of victims who are in France now, allowing the French justice to start working on the case. So these are some examples. There are others that will follow in Sweden, in Belgium, in other places. There were attempts also here in England. There was the case of the American journalist Calvin, who was killed in Homs in the US. Even the name of the officer who gave the order of bombing her was revealed. And what happened to him after his name was revealed in the court in America? He was killed in Syria by the regime, by some people who eliminated him in Deir Zur, exactly as most those who were involved probably in the assassination of Hariri, or at least their names were known as possible people who had liaison with that, were also killed. Kanaan, and then Rustam Ghazali, and then Jami' generals of the Syrian army. So that means this is an indicator also that the Syrian regime takes into consideration that maybe something might move when it comes to the justice, even if so far impunity gave this regime and many other Arab regimes, but also the Israeli state, lots of arrogance. And when you have impunity, why not committing more crimes to protect yourself, to defend yourself, defend and protect between brackets, or to impose yourself? But maybe if something starts to change, and if the regime is a bit alarmed of it, it means it is a bit serious. So hopefully this sign of hope, with the other sign of hope, which is the work of the Syrian diaspora on cultural questions, on documentation, on legal issues, on preserving the memory and preserving the names and the hopes of the people who fought for 12 years in Syria, maybe this would be a note of hope with which I will finish my presentation. And I thank you for your patience and hope you will have comments, questions in the remaining time. Yeah.